What you gonna do with that
Deserto.
do what dee da dee da dee da do what do da dee da do da dee da do what do da dee da do da.
The second game of the week is the Crusaders versus the Chiefs. So returning in this one, there's nothing confirmed, but a really good pick from one of the guys on Twitter has addressed us and shown us that Manasa Mateele, actually a couple of people came forward. He was playing for the Crusaders Development 15 side. So thank you to Jonathan Beswick, I think was one of them. And the other one, Nels, you got that one there for me as well? No, apologies. So Mateele was a week before George Bridge having their pec repair and has already played a game for the Crusaders Development 15. So number one, Bridge might be quite close if he's progressing in a similar fashion. But you could see Mateele back into the squad this week. Personally, I think there's probably too much depth.
Yeah, I agree.
On the flip side of things, the Chiefs, again, no more detail out of these injuries, but we know that Boscher, Quintapaya, Chase Tiatia were all seen as, small injuries, not out for too long. Boscher with his foot, Tapaya with his hammy, and Chase Tiatia with his concussion. So, hopefully they get some fresh legs back in, and that'll be interesting to see how they then deal with those guys coming back into the squad, because all three of those positions are really stacked.
Yeah, look, for me, surely you slot Boschier back into that back row.
Yeah,
I'd love to see him at 6. And then that combination with him, with Kane, and with Jacobson, who I thought had a brilliant game on the weekend, that is a really dynamic, really good back row that is going to have a massive game for them to be able to stand a chance in this one. They're going to have to really work hard at the breakdown and disrupt this ball for the Crusaders. I don't think it'll be enough, but boy, those three together could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
These teams played each other 3 times last year. The Chiefs actually got the first win in Super Rugby. That seems like a long time ago. And then they lost both of their matchups in Super Rugby Aotearoa last season.
Speaking of wins and losses, the Chiefs are now on 10 consecutive losses in a row. So I think
maybe that's their last win.
If they lose, genuinely, I'm pretty sure it is. No, they only lost one game before Super Rugby Aotearoa last year. But so I think maybe they won one other one against one of the Australian sides. But they if they lose this, they tie with the Highlanders, the most ever consecutive losses for a New Zealand Super Rugby side.
Yep, that's going to hurt them, because it's probably going to happen. The issue is that there's not many Aussie teams in that.
Yeah, so that's a bit different.
It's
a bit harder.
A little bit different. But look, going off Brendan's information we were chatting about a little bit earlier, we know that Crusaders have poor attack efficiency, but when they do score, it's generally in 5s and 7s. They score a lot of tries, and Moonga is a great kicker, so he kicks, a vast majority of them. I think he's taken 1 or 2 penalty attempts in the last 2 matches. I don't think he's even kicked them. I think he's literally gone up in 5s and 7s. They also have the best defense efficiency on both sides of the Tasman. So the Chiefs are going to have to attack really, really well and defend really, really well, I think, to be in this one. But the concerning thing for them is that, they have a decent attack, but they really have a poor defense efficiency. They let in 5 tries last week, and the Crusaders are surely going to run a mark and score a lot of tries in this one.
Yeah, look, it's hard to disagree with you when you look at the strike power they have. But having said that, I think the Hurricanes gave the Chiefs a little bit of a blueprint about how to take the Crusaders' backline out of play. I think Fainganuku scored 30 points in fantasy footy, but Havili did nothing. Sevu Reece scored some points, but didn't really get the ball. He's just a bit of a freak.
Yep.
Will Jordan, equally when he came off the bench, didn't really get to have an impact either. So there is a way to shut down the Crusaders pack, and mind you, I think a part of that was just the pressure that was being put on the Crusaders, so they knocked the ball on. They gave away penalties, and slowing the game down seemed to be a really good tactic.
Do you think, maybe it's a bit harsh, but maybe the Crusaders are a step off where they have been in recent years?
Not really.
I don't think it really mattered who they came up against. They had those guys getting involved.
Yeah, I think they're lacking a little bit of the accuracy at the moment. Maybe that's fair.
Something that, I know I cared about, as I think pretty much every fantasy manager would be, we were waiting bated breath for a couple Crusaders to return. We had David Havili return, as you said, not much impact. We had Will Jordan return. I think he played 28 minutes at the back of the match. And although he didn't convert it to fantasy points, he did show a bit of his potential and how exciting he can be. Almost scoring one off a kick, putting the ball down on the line, a few things along those lines. But surely you want to see these guys both in the starting side this week. Maybe I think 2 changes might have just been too much for them off the back of a decent performance to thrust them back in. But I know last week you were talking about Havili being at 12, Will Jordan be at 15 as your prediction, but we're now leaning towards more that we see Havili stay at 15, his preferred position. Maybe we see Will Jordan push to the wing and Fainga Anuku go to the bench. Do you think that's how we'll see it?
I think so. It is really hard to pick, but historically the Crusaders have always gone for their one big dominant physical winger and their one, I guess, more agile, better kicking, better under the high ball type winger.
Second fly half almost. Second fullback, sorry.
Second fullback, yeah. And I think that probably works a little better with Will Jordan. So they're all options. They're all options they could take. But yeah, considering David Havili has been held in very high regard as a vice captain, I think he is. So yeah, I could see it being that way.
Yeah, wants to play fullback.
Yeah.
On the other side, for the Chiefs, do they persist with Sean Wainui at 13? We don't know about Tapia if he's back in it this week. But obviously he didn't sound like a long injury. So do we see him slot in at 13? Do we see Nankivell come in at 12 and push Anton Leonard-Brown at 13? There's a few questions there for the centres.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of history to see how they're going to play this one out, but I think the very fact that they put Sean Wainui at 13 over Nankivell immediately says that they're not stuffing around it's not a stopgap solution by putting him at centre. Otherwise, they would have just started Nankivell.
Yeah, so fair.
I think maybe having Anton Leonard-Brown outside, Bryn Gatland, who's not as familiar with the team's shapes, is a tactical move that they've stuck with.
Yep.
And personally, I think most likely thing is we see the same backline.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Where does Chase Tierney fit in? Does he fit in?
Well, right now
he's
in the concussion ward,
the
casualty ward. But if he comes in, I would love to see him on the wing. I own Jonah Lowe, though, so hopefully not too soon.
Jonah Lowe was very quick on the weekend.
Oh, he's lightning.
Yeah.
So fast.
Let's get some more ball. Get some more ball in his head.
Yeah. And
what's your pick for this one?
Oh, you can't go against Crusaders ever, can you?
No,
Crusaders by 12.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs will stay in it early and they'll break away and I'll go Crusaders by 15.
Yep, fair enough.